killed and several others were injured. The suspects escaped in a stolen car. French police officials say they have identified the suspects and believe they are linked to a Yemeni terrorist network. The Charlie Hebdo magazine's office was firebombed in 2011 for printing cartoons depicting the Prophet Muhammad. The editor-in-chief and several of its cartoonists were among those killed today. Tonight, thousands of people took to the streets of Paris in support of the journalists. CBC's Margaret Evans sent this report.
It is almost impossible to get in or out of Place de la République here in Paris today. People are shouting, Charlie, 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 carrying signs that say, Je suis Charlie, solidarity, of course, with the journalists killed at Charlie Hebdo today. Very difficult. It's very hard to describe. It's time for French people to stick together and we will fight together. A lot of people are also talking about fears for the future and about maintaining what they call France's values of tolerance and there's a sense of real uncertainty and a disturbance. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Paris.
In a prepared statement, Prime Minister Stephen Harper calls today's attack in Paris a barbaric act. Harper says he was shocked and saddened by the deadly assault against the French magazine. Federal Public Safety Minister Stephen Blaney echoed Harper's sentiments, calling it an attack on freedom of expression.
They basically have attacked honest citizens who are making drawings. This is totally outrageous in a society like ours or the French, and that's why we are standing side by side with the French people.
NDP leader Tom Mulcair calls the attacks cowardly acts. He says they are an assault on democracy and freedom of the press. In other news, the federal government says Canada will take in thousands more Syrian and Iraqi refugees over the next few years. More than 3 million Syrians have fled their country since the start of the brutal civil war there. More recently, Iraqis have sought refuge from the conflict with ISIS. But as Laurel Lynch reports, groups that sponsor refugees in Canada say they have been told little about the government's plans.
Months after Immigration Minister Chris Alexander first promised a new commitment to bring more Syrian refugees to Canada, he's finally ready to put a number on it.
We are making today a new commitment to resettle 10,000 more Syrian refugees.
That's 10,000 over 2 years. And in addition to that, a further 3,000 Iraqi refugees will be resettled by the end of 2015. Alexander says the government aims to sponsor about 40% of the new refugees. That means he's counting on private groups to do the rest.
We are very keen to add to the ranks of those very generous Canadian households, parishes, community groups, mosques, synagogues.
Martin Mark runs the refugee program for the Catholic Archdiocese of Toronto. He says it will be a challenge to fulfill the government's target. Mark and others who work in the refugee community were taken by surprise with today's announcement, and they say they have questions about just how it will work. Laura Lynch, CBC News, Toronto.
Scientists in the United States have found a new antibiotic that may be the next weapon in the fight against resistant bugs. Teixobactin has been able to defeat serious illnesses in mice without resistance. In a study published in Nature, researchers say it could be used to fight C. difficile and the virus that causes tuberculosis. It has yet to be tested on humans, a process that could take as long as 10 years. If proven to be effective, it would be the first new antibiotic discovered since the 1980s. And that's the news to this hour from CBC Radio. I'm Rafi Peacock.